So in a few minutes, you're going to hear from some of our community leaders to tell you about some of the projects and programs they're working on in Richmond. But it's my job this morning to make you feel comfortable in Richmond, tell you a little bit about it. So the first question I want to ask is, how many of you have never been to Richmond before? Raise your hand. Well, that's almost everybody. So welcome to Richmond. We're very excited about the opportunity to host this conference, and we look forward to continue participating in it. But what I want to start this out with a little pop quiz. So just kind of see if you're paying attention, see if you're awake. So the first question is, what city built more ships than any place in the world in World War II? Who wants to answer? Let's hear it. Richmond, okay. Richmond had the largest and most productive shipyards in the world in World War II. This was a little sleepy town of about 20,000. It ballooned to 130,000. There were over 100,000 people working here. And they set a world record. They built one Liberty ship in 4 days, 15 hours, and 30 minutes. And that record still stands. You know, today we're having 2 ferry boats built for Richmond. It takes 1 year to build each one of those. Have we made progress in the last 70 years? I don't know. Okay, next question. What city on San Francisco Bay has more miles of shoreline than any other city? Richmond. Okay, Richmond has 32 miles of shoreline on San Francisco Bay. And kind of a corollary to that is, which city on San Francisco Bay has completed more miles of Bay Trail than any other city? All right, 35 miles. What is the largest city in California to offer 50% and 100% renewable electric energy through a consumer choice aggregation? Richmond is a member of Marin Clean Energy, and not only, if you live in Richmond, not only do you have a choice of 50% or 100% renewable, but you're also going to save money. The ratepayers in Richmond have saved over $2 million in the last 2.5 years on electrical energy. So it's not only green, but it's cheaper than the alternative. That's very exciting. Okay, the next question is a true or false question. You can actually walk from Richmond to San Francisco in less than a minute. True or false? What's wrong? Cat got your tongue? Okay, the answer is yes. Richmond actually shares a boundary with San Francisco. It's on a little island out here called Red Rock. And you can actually step right across that boundary and you're going from Richmond to San Francisco. Which city on San Francisco Bay has the most islands? Richmond has 4 islands, more than any other city on San Francisco Bay. And which city in San Francisco, what is the only city in San Francisco Bay that has an island with a lighthouse on it where you can stay in a bed and breakfast inn? Oh, you guys are getting good. You're getting good. Okay. Now, you know, so far we've talked about things that have made Richmond famous, but we also have a lot of infamous stuff in our history. So I'll move on to a couple of those. Now, we don't do it. Well, I'll tell you in a minute. Okay. In what city did the first manufacture of mass quantities of LSD take place? Okay, you're right. In 1966, a guy named Stanley Owsley, who worked for the Grateful Dead, set up a laboratory in Richmond and manufactured over 1 million doses of LSD. He was the primary supplier for Ken Kesey and the Merry Pranksters, the Beatles, and the Grateful Dead. He moved on after they made it illegal in California. Back then, LSD was not a classified, it wasn't a classified substance because nobody had ever made it before. Okay, next question. In what city was the largest and most sophisticated marijuana smuggling operation in U.S. history? Okay, this is a little more recent. From 1979 to 1983, a guy named Bruce Allwyn set up a marijuana smuggling project in a obscure marina just north of the San Rafael Bridge, an abandoned marina called Red Rock Marina. And during those years, he imported over 250,000 tons of marijuana. He had 200 employees, and he had a fleet larger than the navies of most countries. And you know, eventually he was caught and prosecuted, but it was like Al Capone. They got him on income tax evasion. And the reason he picked this place is he did a sophisticated engineering survey, and he found that marina was the only, because it was hidden behind the San Rafael Bridge and behind some islands, it was the only place in the Bay Area that the Coast Guard radar was blind. They couldn't see ships coming in and out of it. So that's why I set it up there. So we don't do that in Richmond anymore. We've cleaned this place up. We're a city of law and order, and you're going to hear from our assistant police chief in a minute. So anyway, with that, I'll wind that up, and I want to introduce our next presenter, Doria Robinson. Please come up, Doria. Doria is the executive director of Urban Tilth, and it's a part of a growing urban farming and urban food movement in Richmond. So,
yeah. Thank you.
Good morning.
All right, that's really a hard act to follow. That's pretty funny. We are innovators. So I need this. So Urban Tilth is an urban agriculture organization here in Richmond. I think the most innovative thing about Urban Tilth is that we take public spaces, we have 13 different school and community gardens, all on public space, and transform those spaces into lush, green, growing places that actually produce food that people eat. And not only do we re-envision public space, but we re-envision it by thinking that the most valuable asset we have in Richmond is our people. Our people, our youth. They are the ones who actually are dying for a chance, sometimes literally, to be seen and recognized and to have their capacity really be put into action. When we transform public space, we create opportunities for communities to come together in ways that they never have before. I've sat in our gardens and talked about the wars in El Salvador with refugees who've settled in Richmond. Never will we ever have the chance to even have that conversation before. We also take a different approach to education. Oftentimes our education system in Richmond is just a poor example of it's really doing a disservice to our kids. And what we do at Urban Tilth is we take that and we say, no, this world that we are in is amazing. It is full of awe and full of questions. And we should actually be looking further into it and stop being shackled by this notion of education that's tests and circle this and cross out that and memorize this so you can fit in a box and hopefully work at Walmart one day. We teach the people who run our programs. We're completely run by Richmond residents, 19 different staff members. Many of them have come through our youth employment programs and become staff members. We teach them real skills. So not only do they come in and get a sense of themselves and become speakers and advocates for healthy change and alternative uses of public spaces, but they learn how to build things. They learn how to design irrigation systems. They understand what the water cycle is, and they understand their role in it, especially in light of our drought. They understand the complexities of growing food. It's deceptively simple. It's not simple at all. It actually introduces them to a world of systems thinking. So even if they never become a farmer in their life as adults, they have a new way of using their minds to apply to problems, to apply to programs, a new way of being in the world where they can actually be real leaders, offering real solutions. We also really focus in our gardens on producing a yield. We don't want gardens that are just places where people go, ooh, ah, and then walk away and eat Burger King. We want them to actually grow real amounts of food, and we focus on a yield because if you're going to be trying to introduce people to a different way of life, they have to think of their work, their time as valuable. And the most valuable part is, how do I get a yield out of my time? How do I do something more than set myself up for wage slavery? I have to figure out how to produce a yield. I think once kids understand the power of their own time and the power of their own mind, you set them up for being the thinkers we need to retool our society and retool our cities. We have this great opportunity right now, this kind of strange band of 19 Richmond residents, most of which have come from the flatlands like me, grew up on welfare and whatnot. We have this great opportunity to take a 3-acre space in North Richmond, one of the hardest hit areas in our community, and transform it into our new home, a farm where we don't only grow food as we've been doing in these distributed small community gardens, but we grow food to scale. And we have the opportunity to actually get into developing entrepreneurial projects so that when kids come through our program, we have 40 kids come through our program every year for the last 8 years, they get turned on and they want to do something besides, work at Walmart or Taco Bell with their minds, with their power, with their energy. We're proposing that at the space, at this farm, we'll have opportunities for them to learn how to start their own businesses. There's 4 different entrepreneurial projects here. I'm not quite sure how to get the animation going on this. I don't think it's going to happen. I invite everybody to come, if you can, on our Bottoms Up tour. You'll have a chance to really look into what we're doing at the farm. There's going to be a cafe space there run by our youth. There's going to be a commercial kitchen for micro enterprises. Not only that, but we are designing the farm now with Byron's Kim Design Works to incorporate cutting edge innovations in energy and water conservation. So not only solar, not only drip irrigation in the farm, but we're also experimenting with fog catchers and other things to hopefully ignite and have a place where youth are gathering, people in the community are gathering, like we've done in all of our community gardens, but gathering and aspiring to a higher place, aspiring to look into how technology can actually help us and reimagine ourselves as not just the cogs in the system, but actually leaders in the future that we need. So I thank you for this time. I invite you on our tour. We have space. If you haven't signed up yet, you will not only see our farm, but you'll also be able to see the amazing work going on at Poco Park and also the amazing work that the community have done redesigning a 10-acre park called Unity Park on the Richmond Greenway. Thank you.
Good. It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Assistant Police Chief Allwyn Brown. Come on up.
All righty.
All right, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Bud. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Richmond. That's important. So I'm just going to take a few minutes and try to highlight some of the reasons why Little Richmond, California, among nearly 18,000 municipal police departments across the country, has gained national attention as a place seen as a model for a number of things, including officer use of force, de-escalation, community policing, driving down violent crime, and building up police and community relationships all at the same time. So Richmond is a majority-minority city. It's been known for decades because of high crime, especially violent crime, gun violence, and a really high murder rate. Used to have a distinction of being among the top 10 list of America's most dangerous cities. Not good stuff. Today, we have a majority-minority police force. 60% of our police officers come from minority groups. While we think it's really kind of not possible to achieve exact parity among police force and community, we think we're on the right track, but we understand that there's work to do. And really, you could call our story kind of a more of a case study of how to build an airplane while it's flying, because the story continues. It's work in progress. But really, three things kind of come together. So all American police forces are based on 9 principles of policing that were established in 1829 by Sir Robert Peel, member of British Parliament. I won't go through all that. But this really intersects with something that's new, which is the President's 21st Century Report on Policing in America, which is really a roadmap and a blueprint for where police organizations need to be. And of course, in the modern era, everything is enabled by technology tools. So we are really far ahead of a lot of places in terms of combining all of these elements in our approach to policing Richmond. But at the core of our policing system is really the idea of building and strengthening police and community relationships, and that's what we've worked really hard to do. We've established a 3-district geographic policing model. Each district is commanded by a captain. We have a beat system where we aim to keep the same officers on the same beats for longer periods of time so they can understand the characteristics of the beats, get to know residents, participate in regular organized meetings, and have communities and neighborhoods have a voice in how to prioritize crime and other disorder in their neighborhoods and really be a partner in driving down crime. Really giving rise to the notion that the public and the police are really an extension of the public, and really community safety is a shared responsibility. Everybody has a role to play. And of course, we have some unique features in terms of cross-function management. Captains are not in a strict hierarchy, even though we're set up that way, but they also have responsibilities for different divisions. And we feel like that's, even though it's unconventional, it really helps and aids cross-function collaboration, cooperation, and putting teams to work together in problem-solving ways to deal with problems with some unity. Again, other non-traditional elements, code enforcement is a part of our police department, recognizing that when you're dealing with crime and other problems, really 3 main variables: who's doing it, who's being victimized, and then the locations where these things happen. That correlation between environment and how crime will take place is important, so we've tried to pull that together in terms of getting things prosecuted, contract attorneys, and city attorney and DA to help with cases, and then a closed circuit camera system throughout parts of the city to help extend the reach of patrol eyes. So here are the results. We had 7 successive years of reductions in crime. Part 1 crime over a 10-year period, 29%. Violent crimes, fewer than 1,000 for the first time reported in 20 years. Fewer than 1,000 home break-ins reported, 20-year low. And of course, the biggie, which we're known for, murders. 90% of murders committed in Richmond are accomplished with a firearm, and they happen in a public place. So we went from a place where we were averaging the middle 50s to the middle 40s down to a record low 11 murders at the close of 2014. So with that, thank you for allowing me to share really just a small snapshot of a very long story. So enjoy the rest of your time here in Richmond. Thank you very much.
And finally, I'd like to introduce Kimberly Aceves, the Executive Director of RYSE, which is a youth organization in Richmond. So
thank you.
Come on up.
Good morning, everybody. Again, my name is Kimberly Aceves. I'm one of the co-founding executive directors of the RYSE Center, or as I often say, the super lucky adult that has been able to be alongside brilliant Richmond young people over the last decade. RYSE, at its very simplest, I would say, youth-led, trauma-informed social justice youth center serving 13 to 24-year-olds, at its simplest. At our deepest, at the heart of what we do, RYSE is a movement. RYSE is a way of life. RYSE has been a way of being in which young people people in this community are given primacy, where young people are put at the center of policy, where we're pushing to really change the narrative of Richmond and change the narrative of youth of color in our community, and moving and shifting the dial from young people as deficits to young people as assets, which has been an incredible shift over the last decade. One of the most radical concepts we use is listening. Strange. It is incredibly underutilized, especially when working with young people. But if we're talking about shifting historical power dynamics, structural racism, then we need to put at the center those most impacted. Putting young people at the center gives them the ability to really shape strategies that they're designing, that they're thinking about, that are going to be most impactful for them. We listen all the time at RYSE. Young people are the drivers of our program, and they're the drivers of policies in our community because they need to be. They know best, and we know that as adults. This picture, by the way, is U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch. She came to RYSE to listen, so it was our vision come full circle. At RYSE, one of the things that we've learned, and really what we've built our program on, is this notion that young people are developmentally designed to innovate. This is their job. They're hardwired to challenge us, to push boundaries, to push past fear and dream about things that we have yet to dream about. And it is critical, especially for communities of color, especially for young people, for us to create safe spaces for young people to be able to do that. So often we're policing young people's risks when what we have to do is we have to open up the possibilities for what's out there in order for our city to flourish. I mean, it is not a strange thing for me to have a young person come up to my desk and say, you know, Kimberly, we need a drone because it's really going to lift up our programming. Hey, we need a drone? Of course, we're going to get a drone. I don't know what a drone does necessarily, but we're going to get a drone. Stuck. Another key point and emphasis at RYSE is context. Context is critical. We cannot create programs in our communities that are just about direct service anymore. We are an international world. Our young people have to be exposed every day to consciousness raising. What's happening locally? What's happening regionally? What's happening nationally? What's happening internationally? Young people in Richmond are global citizens. We want them to be more community engaged. So even if we have a tutoring program, we are talking about what is happening in your educational system that you are not getting what you need to graduate. Everything about RYSE is about lifting young people's understanding of the world. Perfect example of where we really did something powerful was when we did a solidarity movement and standing with Ferguson. Our young people wanted to show the world that, yeah, we're listening, we're experiencing that, but we are standing with you. So we organized something, made international news. Why? Because our police chief held a sign that said Black Lives Matter. Incredibly powerful. But the narrative that wasn't told was that our young people created the conditions that allowed our police chief to feel like he could come to our action and be welcomed, even though we know historically young people in police have struggled. And I think that is really powerful, and we need to create more cities that are thinking about these relationships. Finally, because I know I got to get off, invest early and often. Not just economic investment, but also investment in relationships. We believe every young person that walks through our door is worthy of love and never should be pushed out of our community. Critical that every young person is invested in. And to cities, your budgets and your policies need to prioritize the lifting up of young people, not the managing of young people, but truly lifting up of young people because they are our next leaders. Thanks.
So much.
Thanks.